It's Sunday morning. I've got my cup of coffee and I am set to spend some time in the garden. It's pretty early. I like to do that, get up in the morning and just walk through the garden, see things as they're progressing. Thought I would offer an invitation to you to come join me for a quick walkthrough. I'm actually going to break this up into a couple of videos. Last time I did a video, I rushed through everything trying to do it very quickly, so it was a short video. Didn't do any justice though to any section of the garden, so I thought this time we'll do a couple of them and you can pace yourself as you see fit and maybe spend just a little more time on each area focusing on what's happening there. So grab yourself a cup of tea or coffee and join me for a walk through the garden. Okay, so we're going to start out in the older section of garden, and we're looking right now at the potato patch. This is about 32 feet long and is planted up in 3 different varieties of potatoes. It is mid to late August, and so everything is pretty much going to the stage of the vegetation dieback, and that's good. This is where it should be at this time. We've been, as you can see from the dig areas, getting fresh potatoes for our daily use, but the majority of the harvest will be done probably in mid-September, once the foliage has died back and the potato skins have hardened up and it's cooler out. That's the time to do the big harvest of potatoes. Now, I'm not too sure that I'm going to get quantity as much as I got last year from this. It's been a late year this year, but I do know, based on what I've been digging up to date, the potatoes are really good size, so I may end up with about the same amount of poundage. Only time will tell. We'll see what shows up. In this same bed, we also have beets growing up at the upper end. These have been coming along. I'm now harvesting large ones, and there's more yet to finish fattening up and be ready for harvest. So we'll be eating on these for quite some time yet. They're doing okay this year, actually. I'm not always so successful with beets. They're something that seems to be a little bit fussy of a grower, and while I do okay, I'm not a great beet grower. But we get enough for our needs, which is good. In this same section of the garden, there is 2 big pots that are fairly new to this area. They were actually in the front of the house in the landscaping area, and they weren't getting enough sun, and the strawberries that were planted in them were failing to thrive, and they've been out there for a couple years now. My husband actually just took it upon himself to move them and put them in here, and as you can see, they're really going to town. So obviously that was a smart move, and they really fit pretty nicely here. It's a good use of the space that otherwise would probably be wasted. So hopefully those will flourish and give us more strawberries in the future. In this top section of the garden, we have behind the shed, or a shop area I should say, are rain barrels. I don't talk about them too much, but the truth is we use them a lot. These get their water from the downspout off of the shop and stay full pretty much all of the year, with the exception of by August, usually late August in our dry season, I drain them down and they aren't replenished. We're about at that stage right now. I use the water from the rain barrels mainly to do the container plant watering, not to do the whole garden, and someday in the future I'd actually like to expand that and get more rainwater irrigation set up for the garden. That's a future project. Okay, and then behind me, sorry, don't want to make you see sick here, is the main compost pile set up. I've got between 3 and 5 bins that I set up at any one time. As you can see, they're in various stages. The first one here is the recent collections, things that we're adding. It is a work in progress, if you will. The second bin is actually almost finished compost. We'll be using some of that this fall. And this third bin is something that's in between. It's full, it's been decomposing, but it's not ready yet to be put in the garden. So that's probably next spring that I'll use that one. I'll be adding a 4th, maybe even a 5th bin here as we go into fall, because I'll be needing room for the rest of the grass clippings and our leaves that we rake up from the garden in the yard. At the top end of the old section of garden, I've got a really narrow bed that doesn't get a whole lot of sunshine, that I've got greens planted in this year. One big green though, as you can tell, very tall. This is the tree kale collared plant that I had donated to me and that I've been growing out, and it's doing great. This thing is over 8 feet tall at this point, and producing lovely green leaves, which taste great. They're really good. I'm planning to try and use some of those for some kale chips. They're bigger leaves, so it might be a nice way to use that. Because these are only propagated through cuttings, I've been busy creating some starts so that I can have more than just this one mother plant. As you can see here, I've got one that's going along pretty nicely, and I've got over here a couple more. And what I do is just trim off the piece of the newer growth, dip it in some rooting hormone, and just stuff it in the ground and make sure it stays watered. That works pretty well. I've got about, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 starts going here. I'm going to do some more here before it gets too late in the season. Also in this bed, I have my celery. I had a bunch of celery in here, 24 plants in fact. Most of those have been harvested already and have been put in the freezer. These are the remaining ones that I've left that were a little smaller, and I've let them continue to grow. I'm at a point now where I need to harvest some more of these though and get them into the freezer, and we'll continue to use them for fresh eating through the fall. They're doing really well this year. I think the cooler weather we've had has actually been a help for them. Plus I think they like this bed. This particular bed, as I said, does not get a huge amount of sun, which doesn't really seem to hurt them. And the other is it's really well composted with a chicken manure compost. I think that has been really beneficial for this celery. They are a high feeder, like their feet wet, or moist I should say, and really can do with a little bit of shade. Another section that I have in the older portion of the garden, I've got several beds that I've planted up with my cranberries. You can see the youngsters here mixed with some weeds, unfortunately. There's another one. And going above them is a couple of our blueberry bushes, which have blueberries on, just haven't ripened up yet. Everything's very late this year, so we'll get a harvest from them. It's just not going to be right away. And again, some more blueberries in this bed, 2 big bushes, and again underneath it we've got some cranberries growing as an understory, and these are newly planted, so they're just getting started. Cranberries, like blueberries, take a few years to get underway and to grow enough to start producing. I expected to be able to get a harvest from the bed that is a little older of cranberries, and they're right up here. It's a narrow bed that has just cranberries in it. Well, just cranberries and a few weeds. I need to get in here and weed this bed, obviously. I didn't get any fruit production though this year. I thought I might. It's an old enough plant, it really should be producing. I think it's a function of the spring and cool summer we've had. I just don't think that I was able to get fruit set on the blossoms when they occurred. I'm hoping that next year that we'll get a decent crop from them, but the plants are certainly growing and thriving, so I'm pretty sure that we're developing a nice root system and should be getting some production in the future, just not this year.